Tyrese Gibson and Theo Rossi star in this terrifying thriller inspired by real events. When young women start disappearing in a small town, a police officer and a street smart social worker follow clues to a remote pig farm where they discover the local butcher has been bringing his work home. Enter the world of a serial killer and experience for yourself the blood curdling horror of a film that's bound to take your breath away. I speak, of course, of the film Squealer, which is coming to theaters and on demand November 3rd. I'm about to sit down with the film's co star and co writer, Miss Danielle Brigo, and the other co writer and director of the film, Andy Armstrong. So, with no further delay, let's get into my interview with the creative team behind the film Squealer.
It's the movie Toasty Show.
Hey guys, thank you very much for joining me today. Pleasure to meet
Thank
y'all.
you for coming on. And thank you
Yeah.
for your fantastic background. I wish I'd done that. Well,
Yeah, it's this new movie. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's fantastic. I was so excited to see this screener pop up because I'm friends with Guy Wood. I believe he was your production supervisor.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I've just been waiting to see this movie for a while because he told me about it back when he was working on it. But to start off, what inspired you guys to want to write and bring this story to life?
I'll let Danielle start.
Okay. So Andy and I have known each other for many, many years before we actually started working together. And years ago, he had told me about this story. He had a particular amount of knowledge because he had been involved just on the side of this documentary. And it was a story that literally just stuck with me for years. So 7 years later, when the stars finally aligned and it was time for us to finally do a movie together, and we sat down across the table and we said, what are we going to write about? And I said, that pig farmer turned serial killer. I have not stopped thinking about it for all these years. There was something about it that was so powerful. And he agreed. That was a great place. We both agreed that we didn't want to take it on as an entirely true story. We said, we'll do this we'll take the inspiration, we'll take some of the juicy nuggets and we'll weave in some fiction, partly because we really wanted to be mindful and respectful to anybody who was touched by this story. Many of them are still alive. The story is not that old. And then also because we really wanted to, pay homage to the horror genre and create a film that would satisfy both the true crime audience and the horror audience. So that's how we started. And it was the first film that Andy and I have written together. And that was a beautiful process. Andy's a wonderful, experienced writer. I'm newer to the game, and he was a great mentor. And we found very quickly that we really complement each other, and we come with different strengths, and it's been a beautiful partnership. So we're super excited. We have several projects together. This is our first one that's coming out to the public. So.
Can't wait to see the other ones. If it's as good as this, I can imagine it's going to be as fun. Now, Andy, you did a documentary about this killer before?
I helped a friend of mine. I did a couple of sequences on a documentary where he wanted to recreate a couple of incidences that happened with the real Willie Picton and with one of his victims. And she was sort of loosely based around the character that we have in the beginning, the first girl, that she was so scared that she actually stole a police car and crashed it up the street, trying to get away from him. But unfortunately, she had a big drug habit and didn't show up in court. So that was several years before he was finally brought to justice. So that was always part of the issue, is that a lot of his victims were already prejudged because of their they had a drug habit or their lifestyle or whatever, and so they often weren't taken seriously, and people would say that there was this character doing it and they knew his truck and they knew all sorts of things, and yet he carried on. He just got away with it for a long, long time. And it was that, and the fact that it took place in a very beautiful setting that I think attracted us. Of something that it's not doesn't take place on some weird island or a planet somewhere that you can sort of detach yourself from. It could be someone that that you drive past every day. I think that was one of the attractions, is that it's right in front of us all the time. And the real guy operated for 30 years or so and never got caught. They don't know how many people he did, but that's part of the sort of social commentary of the picture, is that we as a society tend to judge people, and if they come from a certain walk of life, they're not taken as seriously as somebody that was, if he'd have been killing supermodels, he'd have lasted 2 weeks and would get caught. But because he was taking people that were less favored by society, he managed to get away with it for many years. So there is a sort of social commentary there, as well as the picture hopefully being entertaining, because it scares or revolts or all the other emotions that slasher chop up movies do. So but that's what started this sort of thought process for us. It was just fascinating.
And like you were saying, if it was a supermodel or something, they catch the guy right away. But I like the way Danielle, your character, she kind of understands the sex workers and tries like understanding their lifestyle and tries helping them out. And now is she based on a real character, or is that someone that you guys created?
Lisa is completely fictional. We wanted to create, we love the idea of having a strong female leading the charge here. And we really wanted to create, and Andy's wonderful at writing female characters. When I first started working with him and read all his scripts, I was amazed, and he's always been such a champion for women. So I really appreciate that about him. And so we really wanted her to obviously have a lot of dimension, but we like the idea that she has a backstory that really connects her to these girls. She relates to them because she is so much like them. She struggles with so many of the same things that they do. Maybe she's had a little more luck at overcoming them, maybe she hasn't. She's in a tough place in her life when this story starts to unfold. So it's she's on her own difficult path here and has quite a lot to confront and to overcome.
Definitely. I feel like you guys wrote it perfectly. Like, fantastic job on her character.
Thank you.
Now
she's our
I know
gateway, really. She brings the audience to the world. We sort of follow. I think you follow the story because you follow her through it, and the fact that you sympathize with her and understand her a little bit makes it easier to travel on this journey.
Now, I know you said that you took some liberties and you didn't want to tell everything exactly how it happened. Were you guys, did you reach out to any of the survivors or anybody that was related to anybody connected to the killings, or?
No.
Yeah, we really consciously stayed away from all of that. We obviously, the story itself is public domain, public knowledge. So we were quite inspired by a lot of it.
Definitely.
But from there, we just, put on our storytelling hats and really wanted to just make a solid movie. And so we took the pieces, and that helped us, I think, create the initial building block to the story. And then from there, we made it our own.
Nice. Now, what was the hardest scene for you guys to crack? Was there one that like took a while you kept going back to and you're like, I just don't feel it yet? Or was it all pretty easy to get laid out on page?
That's a really good question. I feel like in general, it was the story came together pretty seamlessly and easily, but nothing is that easy. There definitely were challenges, and I'm trying to think like what was I think probably Lisa's journey was the trickier part of it, and her backstory and her relationship with with the cop who's played by Wes Chatham, that was probably a little more like tricky, that we really wanted to figure out and get it right. We really wanted all of our characters to have their relationships really fleshed out, but also we wanted to keep good pacing. You know, we didn't want to get bogged down too much into those things. So we wanted to have it there so it made sense. And so you hopefully relate to them. But we also want to, you know, we want to keep it moving. We want to keep the focus on the main storyline. So there was a bit of back and forth with that, and we ended up doing a pretty big edit towards the end before we filmed and cut a lot of some of that stuff out. Andy has taught me, like, let's put it all in there, and then, you know, we can kind of carve it out later. And that's been a process for us.
I would agree with that. I think probably the scene that certainly I had, you know, wanted to make sure was worked on the right level is the sort of makeup scene where Wes comes to Danielle in the sort of motel, and they're sort of it's a romantic moment, but it felt out of place if you have something that's too overtly sort of romantic, but you wanted to also show this relationship between them. So, and I think because of the performance of both actors, I think it's there. I think it works really well. But it's certainly going into that, I was more nervous about that scene than anything, because you can make it sappy and, you know, overly romantic like some sort of Hallmark movie, or you go the other way and it just becomes very cold and you don't care about either of them. But hopefully you do care about them now. So, but that was the one thing for me.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I know I got to wrap things up, but I can't wait to see what you guys do next. And thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you very
For
much.
having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.